Transferable skills.
From Cackle Media, this is Transferable Skills. I'm Noah Mishkin. Today's guest is Julie Irving, who shares her skills journey from radio ad sales into healthcare marketing. Stay tuned for the second half of the episode where Julie shares a little bit of her perspective and experience working for a gigantic healthcare pharmacy company amidst the COVID-19 lockdown and vaccinations. What's it like to try to market to and appeal to a vast variety of different kind of segmented populations, all dealing with the same crisis, but having different perspectives, feelings, impressions? Not easy. I hope you enjoy. Julie, it's great to have you here on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, let's start in your career after college. Where were you and what were you doing?
So I was in college in North Carolina. I thought I wanted to get into the music business. I'd been a music major in college and I switched to business. I was like, I'll do something with both of them. I'd interned at the radio station in DC 101 for anybody that is familiar with that area. That was a really fun internship. It was like a promotions internship. After school, my first professional job that I was in was being a sales coordinator for one of the stations. It was for Clear Channel, which is now iHeartRadio. It was a sales coordinator for Wash FM. So I was basically like administrative support to the sales team. And I saw them all going out and being independent and having clients and putting together proposals for them. And I just really wanted to do that. So I had to convince them to essentially let me do that. I'm not like your standard salesperson, but I did decent in it. I was already in there. So I had to interview with a couple of the different sales managers. And I think I put together a couple of decks that was like, this is why you should hire me. These are the kinds of accounts I'm going to go for and the kind of results I'll bring and et cetera, et cetera. And I think I did that that was like the top 40 station and the rock station I'd worked for. So Hot 99.5 and DC 101. Again, anybody that is from the DC Baltimore area will know it. Anyone else will not.
When you're putting together that proposal, you're saying like, here's my goals, here's what I believe I can accomplish. What was that based on? Like just hopes and dreams? Or were you basing on doing some level of research and understanding the market and giving a proposal that you felt was somewhat unique in what you were going to bring to the table?
I could see what kind of accounts were running on those stations from the data and resources I had. And I could see just understanding the categories that did well and what other businesses could we go after in those categories. Like I had access to some qualitative information and things like that. So I think I just took that and was like, this is what I'm going to do. These are where I think the opportunities are. I think that most people probably interviewing for these roles were not doing that. So I feel like that kind of drive and accountability they're like, all right, let's try this out. One of the sales leaders was basically like, you're either going to do like amazing at this or you're going to fail.
Somebody saying that to you, is that a motivation or is that fear? Like, what is that? How do you react to when somebody says you're either going to do really well or terrible?
Oh, it's 100% motivation. If anybody thinks that I'm incapable of doing something, like to this day, if someone thinks I'm not able to do it, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to do that actually.
You characterize yourself in some of our earlier conversations as internally driven and always learning.
Yeah.
So I'm going to figure out how to do this and I'm motivated to outperform your expectations.
Yeah, that's totally who I am. The one thing I will say is you got to be careful with that. Juice isn't always worth the squeeze. Like it's kind of like the pick your battles. Don't do something just because of that.
I think it's also okay to recognize that like early on in your career, we don't all know what we want and what that juice is going to be worth. And so you got to try a bunch of different things before you figure out what you're very satisfied with, what brings you joy, what you're fulfilled through, and where your strengths are. How did that go for you, that role?
It is hard. That is a hard role. And most people do not make it past the first year. It's a lot of young people too. So that was fun. I was with a bunch of other like 23 to 25-year-olds. They're on commission. I was on a draw of $1,500 a month. So if I would get that no matter what, but if I didn't make that in commission, I would have to pay it back. So I think that maybe there was only a couple months, like the first couple months where that's all I made and then it picked up. But it's just very hard financially because it takes time. Like when you're in those kind of roles, you have to go as an entry level, like newer person, you have to go get all your own business. So you're getting direct business. Most of your larger business goes through like an ad agency.
How did you figure out who to go after?
I would just see who's advertising in other places, see who had budget, call them, say, you're trying to do this. I can help you do this, essentially. I just had to hit the phones. It's so painful to think about that now. I was just very determined. I don't know. I don't think I could do it if my life depended on it, but I don't think
Yeah.
I
Can we
would not
talk
want to do
about that? Because hitting the phones,
Mhm.
cold calling, that is a skill.
You just have to be like, I think, a machine. I get salespeople that reach out to me now all the time trying to sell me things that make absolutely no sense for me. You need to know who you're talking to a little bit. You need to know something about them, and you need to find a way to relate to them and relate to helping them. I don't know. I tried to make friends with people. I tried to relate people. I tried to understand what was going on in their business and ask them questions. And basically, you cold call, then you get a meeting with them. You do a meeting where you do like a client needs analysis and understand what their business is, what their goals are. This is what you need to do. And then you come back and you put together a plan. It might be radio, it might show what time, it might show what type of ad or what creative we can develop for you.
How long were you banging the phones and doing sales?
So I was in that role for about 3 years. And then, I realized don't want to be selling. I'm going to be on the side where I'm like strategizing the whole bigger picture. I'm like, I did not come to this decision lightly, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to move to New York and go to NYU and get my MBA and move into a marketing role. So with that though, I went to the program where I worked through the program where I was going part-time. And then I ended up interviewing and getting a job with the direct competition, which was CBS Radio. So I took that and I moved up there. I knew I wanted to do marketing, but it was just making this was like the biggest transitional moment, I think, was moving from the sales into marketing, even though I didn't
Yeah.
feel like it was that big a job. But what you usually want to do, and maybe you got in this from talking to a whole ton of people about this, is the easiest move for you is either change industry or change function. And there wasn't really like a lot of marketing jobs like that in radio. There was to an extent, but they were promotions. And those jobs were just super competitive. And I think also in many cases might not have even paid as much as sales. I didn't think that was the right direction.
So if that was the majority of the marketing roles in radio, what
Mhm.
was it that you wanted to do that you were hoping for?
I think when I went to school, I said I wanted to get into brand management in my essay, but I don't even think I honestly really knew specifically what kind of marketing I wanted to do. I knew
Yeah.
that I wanted to strategize and manage campaigns. I was working the whole time through the MBA because I went at night and at night and on the weekends. The last few months of school, I got a contract role with Quidsy, which they don't exist anymore. They were like diapers.com and wag.com. But that was my first like marketing manager full-time type role where I was basically tasked with driving traffic to this site afterschool.com. Post on their social media accounts. I was actually doing a lot of encouraging people to join their affiliate program. I had no budget. It was an interesting role. I was just getting very scrappy. I was targeting businesses in specific states to do partnerships. That was like a lot of what the role was, and social media posting and maybe some email marketing too. Yeah.
You were the
kind of all over the
catch-all of
place.
marketing for them.
They didn't have any other marketing person for that site. They had for the larger organization. Like I think there was like a paid search person and things like that. But for that specific site, it was just me. The sales mindset came back into it because I was like cold calling people and just trying to do all these little partnerships. It was very like grassroots. So I was given the direction to do that and to take that approach. But then I think I had to figure out how to make that happen or make that work.
Yeah. You're
Again,
totally
this was-
leaning on your
yeah.
cold calling sales
Mhm.
experience from before. And
Yeah.
that's an unconventional way to do marketing. And you're
Mhm.
taking your sales experience and applying it to the marketing role.
Yeah, but by the way, all that freelance work that I did, same thing. There was a couple of clients that I had to put like proposals together, be like, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, everything it plays into, even making like these smaller like industry changes that I've made, all of it. It's such an important skill to have, I think.
So now what?
So I got a marketing manager role at Macy's, or it was Macy's.com really. And I was there for almost 5 years, I think. So I was still living in New York at the time. But anyway, the first 2 or 2.5 years I was there, it was all driving business to the website, driving business to certain departments. So the job was essentially like email marketing, allocating and driving strategy for paid search, like SEO, content hubs, affiliate marketing, all those tactics of figuring out how to drive that and how to get the share of voice for the businesses that I had in the larger Macy's like ecosystem, I would say.
Yeah.
So Macy's always has sales. Like they always have sales. Some sales are better than others. I know which ones to buy different things in, at least if the strategy hasn't changed, so I can get myself some better discounts there nowadays. Macy's strategy, a lot of it, and especially for the businesses like the kids business, it's like, how do we show up and get like a share of voice in these different sales to drive our business. I got promoted at one point and was really focusing on the lease businesses. That we had a restructure where there was no e-com marketing team anymore. And also at the time, my husband and I had moved out of New York City into Stamford, Connecticut. And I was commuting in every day, and it was just too much. And yeah, I'm like, all right, I think we just need to try something totally different. So I just expanded my geographic search to New England, New York, all of it. And I found a role at CVS Health. And I say CVS Health because I also worked for CBS, so it's confusing. But while I was at Macy's, one of the businesses I worked on was Lens Crafters, along with Sunglass Hut. So it's all Luxottica is like the parent company. And I think because I had that background, I pivoted that into the CVS role where it was literally doing that.
Yeah, what a natural progression there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then the interesting thing was that it seemed like when I started, it was like this big initiative, but then they decided to stop with the audiology. And then the optical became less of a priority. But then I helped launch the optical. There was like an optical e-com site there where we're partnering with 1-800 contacts. That job went in different directions. But I would say what was interesting about that role is that what looks like on paper that the roles might have been very similar, they actually weren't. There are so many different kinds of marketing roles. There are so many. I don't think people realize that.
If you can just maybe highlight a few that might appear similar, but how they distinguish themselves quite differently. What would some of those roles be?
All right, let me just say this. I think people think that marketing is basically like making something pretty and coming up with a cool tagline.
I think that's part of marketing. It's not all of it.
Yeah, but I think that's why they can do marketing. What I do now and kind of what I was doing at CVS, it's more like strategic marketing where you're developing a strategy, the insights, like why are we doing this? What are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to measure that, et cetera. But it's not, you're not going to have this much specialization at smaller companies. There's CRM, there's life cycle marketing where you're looking at your retention and loyalty and nudging and whatever the business is, it will change your segmentation. There's performance marketing where you are literally like buying media and looking at results. There's brand and creative where you're developing the creative concepts. That's who would probably develop the slogan. So
and make it look nice.
Yeah. On insights coming from me and what I do.
That's right. That's right. Well, there's data, and the data analysts within marketing are analyzing, like you said, life cycle, I should say, LTV, retention, attrition. They're also analyzing the data from conversion from the actual promotion or media and all that stuff. But then there's also content marketing. It's like, what are you writing and what kind of format is it? Is it blog? Is it articles? Is it on social media? There's social media marketing with its own thing, which is a hybrid between sales, customer service, and content and engagement. And so there's so many different types of marketing. So when someone says that they work in marketing, I have a general idea of who you are, but I don't know the type of work you're doing at all.
Yeah, it just varies so much. So this is what I say. It was more in this that my team would play like the strategist role at CVS. But while there was elements of that at Macy's, like we weren't driving the strategy as much. My role was more like drive sales, traffic, drive sales. Like that was what the role was. Now I work for Elevance Health, which you probably don't know unless you're in healthcare, but it's Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. Most people will know that. It's like a Fortune 50. It's a huge organization. I have moved over to the PBM side. So the pharmacy benefits manager. So the pharmacy side of that, which if you're don't know anything about this, you probably don't even realize there's a difference, but there is, but it's all part of the same company. Essentially, my role there, both roles have been all about driving member behavior, which might mean, for example, like getting people to close gaps in care, encouraging our members to get a flu shot. Or I was very involved in everything COVID because this was like 2020. That was really interesting because early on, people were like, wanted this information from us and they were like dying for it. They're like, when are the vaccines coming? And it made a quick turn into people getting mad about hearing anything about vaccines. Anyway.
For interesting time to be part of a pharmacy and healthcare company. It's crazy. You are seen as a reliable source. They're coming to you for information, but also solutions. Not to get like into that topic because it is a whole nother conversation, but we can actually scratch the surface. Well, I don't mind scratching the surface a little bit if you don't mind, like in your role, driving traffic and information to consumers during a period like COVID, where they're looking to you for information and results and solutions for, in this case, vaccines and healthcare and best practices. And then when the narrative and the tone changes suddenly, into fear or just, I don't want to hear about this anymore, or there's disinformation or a lack of transparency and understanding. There's a lot of things that would maybe upset people or turn them off from wanting to hear more about it. What kind of responsibility do you have, or how do you change your job when the sentiment of what the audience and society is, how their sentiment changes so quickly? How do you react to that?
We had started communicating information about like misinformation or trying to get around myths and things like that. I will say that was a bit difficult to do because just the speed at which that information was going and the speed at which we could react were not on the same level. But I don't think that was needed to be our place anymore. We let people know they could get vaccines, did provide education a little on, we decided to stop doing it at some point. Like we put helpfulness surveys in a lot of our emails. So we get like straight feedback from people, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But one thing actually that like the company pivoted, and as a marketing strategist I supported, was we had got free COVID tests for certain segments of our population. And we had it because we had a lot of members that were getting the more expensive, I forget what they're called, but there was a couple of different kinds of tests, and one took a few days and was more
Right.
expensive. And then there was the rapid tests were like starting to come out. So we only had limited number of tests, and we wanted to get them to the places where they were needed most. So what I did is I put together a campaign that I worked with a clinical team to basically look at the data, see where COVID was spiking. And then I set this up so that a few days after we got that data about COVID spiking, we'd send an email that's, hey, COVID spiking, we can get you free tests in just a couple of days. And it did amazingly well. I can't think of all the metrics off the top of my head, but it was like, when I compared that to even retail marketing where people are more responsive, I feel like in general, it was like, conversion was insane. Like everyone wanted it, and it was beneficial to everybody involved. That's the best of all the worlds when that happens. So I guess in summary, to answer the question is it wasn't just me, but the company as a whole shifted what we were doing. And it became less about like myths about the vaccine, because that had just been beaten to death by society, I think, and more about testing and just, yeah.
So if, as a marketer and somebody who looks at the data, the survey results, the feedback and engagement, if you have some insight into this, the example that you used was, there's a virus that is spiking right now.
Mhm.
We can get you the solution. From the consumer side, I personally speaking, sometimes I'm skeptical where I see an email like that with the subject line. It's like addressing this need right now. And I sometimes find myself saying, wait, is this authentic and helpful to me and they're trying to serve the community? Or are they trying to be opportunistic about a situation and make money as a healthcare company? And that's like the consumer mentality that I'm in, always trying to parse out or evaluate the intentions of this email and promotion. From your side of it, how do you look at it?
So I totally hear that. But there are things that I like, the way that I think about it and the way that I think about communicating with members is just providing them with the information that they need and providing them with tools and resources they can use at the right time. There's only so much that I can say. Like, we actually spend more time targeting people that, for example, like that we think are more likely to take the action because of their behavior or because of their digital behavior or their claim behavior or something. So there might be some people that you just are never going to convert because they're like, they think that they're going to get a chip in their arm from getting a vaccine, and we've been into consideration. But for the people that are more receptive, or could be more open to it, it's just a matter of, actually, as your insurance company, we're telling you that this vaccine is free. It doesn't cost you anything to get. And also, here's some places where you can get it near you. Like, it's just giving them that information. And I have looked through so much research about what people want from their health insurance company or their pharmacy benefits manager or any of it. And the place where we always win is like, we can tell them how much things cost and what their benefits are and how to get access.
Yeah. Transparency on pricing and accessibility is probably the most important thing. And you probably have to ignore the questions or I don't know if you want to call it conspiracy theories, but you probably on your side have to just assume we're going to do our best. We're going to send out this information. The majority of the people will assume that this is helpful information, and everybody else, it's not our concern. They can either believe it or not. We're just trying to be helpful.
Yeah. Or we just shift the messaging to those people, or we don't message them at all. If we have the information, like, we try to be, I'd say this company and I don't think it's just, this is the only company I worked in this industry. We are so sensitive about what we're sending out and who we're sending it to and when, in an effort to going back to being annoying or not annoying or offensive. Like you could really offend people with communications about
Yeah.
their health. And
That's
so
so
it's
interesting. Do you have an example of that?
so we had some communications that were about like a program that could help you basically like improve your health and lose weight. And the way that it was like targeted at like,
I can already see where this is going.
well, it wasn't targeted by people that we knew were overweight.
Right.
Like we don't know that information. I don't have that information. It wasn't but a lot of it might have been like the age of somebody or something like that, because they're more likely to get like diabetes. And people just, if you send people a message as a healthcare company about weight loss, like you have to be so careful about it. People think that we knew that they were overweight or that they were, there's a lot of things that
Well,
can
the
happen.
assumption, actually, the assumption is backed by real facts, which is that if I'm using your pharmacy, you know what medication I'm on, you know my health records to a degree. You basically know enough about me for me to assume that this was a targeted, segmented campaign for my persona that fits me. But really, it's a smaller tier persona. It's not necessarily specifically curated to my weight for the weight loss medication, but rather maybe because of my age group. So it's not about my weight, but rather the higher level avatar persona information that you know about. But I can understand why people would react that way. And some of it might be authentically because they know that they're overweight and they got that email. And so it's just reminding them what they know. And then there's some people that will just ignore it. And it's hard for you to even predict or control how someone will react. So the question you always have to ask as a company, regardless of what product or services you're offering, is, can I send this out knowing that there will be some people that will misinterpret our intentions here? Is that still okay to send out?
Yeah. And it's a balance, because you want to get people the information. It's going to help people to know the information, but you could potentially offend people. And related to health, we are very careful about these things, much more than I would say in other industries. Like I'm not going to offend somebody by sending them like this 50 off dresses at Macy's for kids. Like I'm just not. I don't want to say that. Maybe I could, but
I mean, you might send them a campaign about like this new like brand that you have for either maternity or plus size. And that might be misconstrued as like targeted to me, but it really wasn't. It was just, we're excited to launch this new product line.
Maternity, that's another topic that can get sensitive. Yes.
I'm sure anything health or personal related to that, to that degree, it can be taken very personally and in the wrong context. And I get it. I understand. You have a level of sensitivity in this role within marketing for healthcare that probably is far more limited, even if it exists even at all in many other industries.
Totally. Health insurance companies have been in the news a lot lately. But I will say, like, the people that I work with and myself, I want to do my little part a lot, and I can speak for other people that I work with to make it better. It is a big, complicated system, but if I can help somebody have better health care without offending 10 other people, hopefully, like, awesome, good.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about being in healthcare too.
And I think that most people have good intentions. Most companies typically have good intentions.
Yeah.
Give me some insight behind the curtain scenes of an email campaign that might go out in healthcare specifically, where in a meeting about it, the question comes up, how will this be received? Can you just characterize or give me a general understanding of how much time is spent considering even the copy, the subject line?
Oh my.
What are you using a variety of tools to score it and to decide how to move forward? Like on an email that I might open for a second and delete in a matter of moments, how much time is being put into considering that email before it goes out?
It's not just anywhere that any of these companies that I work with, these big companies that I work with, CVS, Macy's, Elevance, like there are processes. It takes months from when you brief it to it going through the process and getting out the door. You write a brief, you're going through a creative team, the creative is developed, there's project managers involved, there's like the CRM team involved to look at, these are all the different things going out, what's the priority, how are we coordinating it? You have, depending on what the campaign is, you might have multiple layers of leadership looking at it. Generally, now I don't have a lot of that.
The amount of time that goes
Yeah.
into considering an email before it goes out is huge. The number of people involved, and therefore, because of the time and the individuals involved, think about the cost to the company as far as like hourly wages go, the rates at all those individuals that had eyes on and meetings about, and
Yeah.
considering that all that time before an email goes out, that email that I opened for a second, looked at, scanned, and quickly deleted all in a matter of 5 to 10 seconds was very expensive.
Yeah. And the thing is like people think, including I'm probably guilty of this too. Email's free. Yeah, email's not,
Mhm.
it's not free. It's like time. It's time which is paid for by the company, but it's not like a television ad. A television ad, you pay the media company, whatever. But yeah, no.
Different cost
It's
structure.
yeah. The thing is, I will say this job market is absolutely ridiculously beyond insane. But what I found, and I don't know what the solution is in this job market. When I've made some changes in my career, it was easier because I didn't have the financial burden. I didn't have kids. I didn't have the same responsibilities. I was younger. I had more freedom. I was like in school. Entry level, I think, is very difficult. But once you're past that point, it's a little easier. And now I've also had the opportunity to be a hiring manager and to lead a team. When I interview people, I like love all of them and I want to hire all of them. I genuinely like, can I just build a new team? But that doesn't make any sense. And I've actually, I'm like, I need to balance this out with people that are going to be more critical than me
Yeah.
because I feel like there are people that gave me a chance and I want to give other people a chance to give them the same benefit of the doubt. You have to balance it. And I also know that with the complexity of my organization, I need somebody that has some kind of experience in this. I guess some solutions would be one, if you can do freelance work, if you can do side work, even if you don't get paid enough or you do it for free, if you can afford to do that. Leveraging your network is another thing, which everybody says, and it's yeah, you do that. I've had a lot of success in reaching out to alumni. I always offer to help the people I'm talking to, even though most of them probably can't use anything from me, but you never know. You never know.
Right.
I don't know. You have to just get out there. I don't know. Like these are all probably things that people know and they're easier said than done, but you have to do that, I think, like 10x right now.
I
If,
agree. And I've seen that firsthand. I know a lot of people looking, and that's a shared experience.
yeah, just keep going. Don't
Keep on
I
keeping
don't know.
on.
I don't know what else to say. I want to be more helpful.
This is great. I want to say thank you, Julie, for being here today.
Thank you for having me on.
I want to thank Ephraim Epstein for recommending Julie as today's guest, and to you, our listeners, for joining us on this episode of Transferable Skills. Remember, the skills you've gained can take you anywhere. Until next time, keep exploring those transferable skills.